And we're back. So, in that previous clip, you got an overview of Brother Man, which, as I say, was a sort of seminal comic. And it really calls our attention to the idea there exists perhaps a counter canon that does take into account works produced by people of color, like independent comic works that are produced by people of color. So the current renaissance around the production of black creators, and there is a robust community of black creators, really calls our attention to the ability of the genre, uh, the different genres in comics, to be leveraged to tell stories from different perspectives, right? We can see that in terms of the incorporation of the feminist perspective, and I think we can see that in terms of the incorporation of sort of like sensitivity around race and identity, especially in terms of African Americans. So when we think about the readings for this week, a comic like Bitterroot very strongly aligns with the comic canon through its engagement with history and trauma. Even the title of this special issue, Red Summer, says a lot about the awareness of the creators, about the history of African Americans, and how much that is so central to how they approach the work. So, Bitterroot offers up stories that revisit traumas associated with African American experience and aspirations and cultural touchstones that define the Black experience. You can see it in the locations that are the focal point of the stories that appear in Bitterroot, places like Chicago in summer of 1919, or Tulsa, Oklahoma in 1921. You can also see it in sort of moments where key historical figures are introduced and intertwined in the story world of Bitterroot, as you can see here in the story Etta. You can also see it in the aspirational elements of sort of black uplift ideology that were incorporated into the comics. In a story where it ends with the father telling the son, oh, what's really the weapons that I use are books. And so there's an element here where Bitterroot is deeply entwined with the black experience and history and culture and traumas that define it in a way that's right there out in front. It does not sacrifice the supernatural elements of the story world in which it's placed. In a similar vein, the fictive narratives associated with On the Stump really ask us to think about the possibilities and probabilities associated with sort of politics and culture in the United States. This is a sort of an alternate history story, which is a pretty well established genre in science fiction, and it intertwines that with a concern with structures, politics, and identities that's really quite interesting. As I said, the last part of this week's sort of postings is a conversation with myself and Chuck Brown, who's one of the co-creators of Bitterroot and the writer and co-creator of On the Stump, where he talks about the work and what drives the ideas. So this is a great opportunity for us to hear directly from the creators, but also think about this in terms of that canon question. Because, of course, it's not to say necessarily that the authors are schooled in the canon. They're creators. They're creatives that are telling stories that they think matter. But it's something to be said that they recognize almost intrinsically, almost instinctively, the stories that matter are going to mine the history, mine the culture, and tell stories of their community in a way that will engage with them. So check out that conversation. That's the last part of the postings for this week.